Hey all you cats and chicks out there, welcome back to Control Players Unite. I am your host, Dr. Red. Today we are presenting on how to play Block-Snorlax. We will go over the components of the deck, basic strategy, and a sample build. This is Block-Snorlax. It's called as such because of the block ability. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, your opponent's active Pokemon can't retreat. In case you didn't get that, this ability is all we are focusing on. Ignore the attack, we're not going there. So Dr. Red, what's the strategy? This is Block-Snorlax. This is 4 copies of Block-Snorlax. You get a copy of Block-Snorlax, put it in the active spot so that your opponent cannot hard retreat, and leave it there. That's it. But you need help. So we have some essential Pokemon along the way. Rotom V has the instant charge ability. It allows you to draw 3 cards from the top of your deck. But if you do, your turn ends. And that's okay, because we're not attacking with Block-Snorlax, we're only using Rotom V to get resources. Pidgeot V states, with the Vanishing Wings ability, that once during your turn, when this Pokemon is on your bench, you may shuffle it and all attached cards into your deck. This prevents deck out. Last, we have Chi-Yu EX. For 1 fire energy, the Jealousy Singe attack discards the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. This mills your opponent's essential resources, hopefully, and also increases the speed of the match. We also have some supplemental Pokemon. Mimikyu with the Safeguard ability states, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX and V. Now that sounds really good, ladies and gentlemen, and some would argue that it is an essential component, and maybe it is, but this next card is the reason why I put it here. Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX states that the Cornerstone ability prevents all damage from attacks to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon that have an ability. That's the good part for us, but it also has the Demolish attack. For 1 fighting and 2 colorless energy, it does 140 base damage. This attack's damage isn't affected by weakness or resistance or by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. More and more decks are teching this in to deal with Mimikyu, so Mimikyu essentially becomes almost useless. We also have Mantine. For 1 colorless energy, it has Born Ashore. Put a basic Pokemon from either player's discard pile onto that player's bench. It's a bit of an older inclusion as it has since lost its favor with players, but it is worthy of your consideration. That's interesting, Dr. Red, but what about trainers? We have some essential trainers too, starting with Cyllene. Flip 2 coins. For each heads, choose a card from your discard pile, reveal them, and put them back on top of your deck in any order. This helps get back cards not easily recyclable, like Special Energy. Then we have Penny. Put a basic Pokemon and all attached cards into your hand. If the Block-Snorlax in your active spot is heavily damaged and is about to be KO'd, you play Penny to pick it up, healing it, and then put a Block-Snorlax on your bench into the active. And next we have Eri. Your opponent reveals their hand, and you may discard up to 2 item cards you find there. This is great for getting rid of rare candies that may evolve Pokemon into Baxcalibur, Pidgeot EX, Charizard EX, or Dragapult EX. And all of this leads us to a side debate about Block-Snorlax. What's the primary win condition? Well, ladies and gentlemen, some would say it's the mill component. As soon as you wear your opponent out of resources, put Chi-Yu EX in the active, and then become a mill deck for the last few turns. Others would say it's the stall component. Nope, just keep Block-Snorlax there, keep gusting up things that can't attack, and wait your opponent out. Still others would say that they are equal components. For my part, it's the stall, because you do not need to mill in order to win. You win primarily through retreat lock. For example, I've come across at least 1 Block-Snorlax deck with nothing but 4 Block-Snorlaxes and a single Rotom V. Nothing else, no mill component. Now you could say to me, well, Dr. Red, Block-Snorlax with mill is still something else. And I would say, yes, you are welcome to think that. But that doesn't matter for actually playing, because you just need to win. So how do we do that? Here's the runner-up deck build of a Japanese player in one of the Japan City League tournaments, which is the Japanese competitive ranking circuit. On top of what we already mentioned, we have 4 copies of Arven to get an item and a tool card out of our deck. Our tools are Bravery Charm for increasing our basic Pokemon's health by 50, Defiance Vest for decreasing the damage our opponents deal to us by 40, assuming we're behind on prizes, and the Forest Seal Stone that we attach to Rotom V to get any 1 card out of the deck. We also have copies of Misfortune Sisters for milling items out of our opponent's deck, Boss's Orders and Counter Catcher for gusting up Pokemon from the bench, Giacomo for getting rid of special energy on our Pokemon, Erika's Invitation for getting our opponent's basic Pokemon in their hand into play, and also a copy of Team Yell's Cheer. Team Yell's Cheer states that you may shuffle in combination any 3 of Pokemon and supporters into your deck from your discard pile except Team Yell's Cheer. This is paired with Cyllene to create a loop. You play Cyllene to get something from your discard pile into your deck. Then you draw that card or cards on your next turn, and then you play Team Yellow's Cheer to put Cyllene back into the deck. When you eventually draw Cyllene, you hopefully flip a heads and then can put Team Yellow's Cheer back into the deck, and so it creates a loop. If you flip 2 tails from Cyllene, or you just don't want to go that route, we have 2 copies of Pal Pad that allow us to put any 2 supporters from our discard pile back into our deck. Accompanying Flute helps us get basic Pokemon onto our opponent's bench by looking at the top 5 cards of their deck and putting any basic Pokemon we find there onto the bench. We also have Prime Catcher for switching one of our opponent's benched Pokemon into the active, and one of our benched Pokemon, presumably Block-Snorlax, into the active. We also have 3 copies of Temple of Sinnoh for dealing with special energy, especially Lugia, and 2 copies of Fire Energy for Chi-Yu. As far as matchups, the strategy is what we discussed, though it will vary slightly. Basically, gust up something that can't attack and leave it there. For the Roaring Moon EX matchup, attach a Mist Energy to your Pokemon to prevent Frenzied Gouging's auto KO effect or Giratina V-Star's Star Requiem attack if you're facing Giratina Lost Zone. Though I'm aware that Ancient Box has more tools, let it mill itself before bringing up Chi-Yu EX. For Chien-Pao EX, put Mimikyu in the active or Bibarel versus Snorlax. Use Misfortune Sisters to mill their energy retrievals. Charizard, same thing, but Bibarel, Rotom V, or whatever is harmless will be put in the active. Be sure to use Defiance Vest. The list goes on, but you get the idea. Any recommendations to this build are really just a matter of preference. Some prefer more or fewer accompanying flutes. Some prefer 2 copies of a specific supporter. I don't know what the math is for specific types of builds, but psychologically speaking, it's really what you're most comfortable with. Speaking of psychology, there is a second debate concerning this deck. Is this deck low skill, or does it require above average talent to play? Speaking from experience, I once faced a Lugia V-Star deck with Lumineon V before Legacy Energy was a thing. My opponent benched Lumineon V, didn't have any switch cards, and I bossed up, that is to say I gusted up Lumineon V into the active and won that way. With that being said, Block-Snorlax is low in its capacity to be piloted and high in terms of sequencing when your opponent complicates the board state. And by complicates, ladies and gentlemen, I mean gives you something not easy to deal with, such as not benching a Manaphy, Bibarel, or Lumineon V, and eliminating those from their hands when you do not have a Mantine. What do you do then? Well, it depends on what you have in your hand, but as far as someone understanding the basics laid out here, anyone can pick it up and play. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. What did I miss? Where am I wrong? Let me know in the comments. Please take care of yourselves, and may God bless you.